7 years since the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan, the country remains incredibly fragile. No easy solution to the conflict in sight. Afghanistan's ambassador to the United States lived in Oakland for many years, and on a recent visit to the Bay Area, he spoke with ABC 7's Cheryl Jennings about the challenges facing his homeland.
The Afghanistan ambassador to the United States is passionate about the positive changes in his country over the past few years following the defeat of the Taliban. But Ambassador Jawad is angry about a new wave of terrorism being fueled by opium sales of nearly $100 million a year.
And our enemy are Taliban. They are not a mystery. We know exactly what Taliban wants if they come back in power into Afghanistan.
The Taliban is using that drug money to buy weapons to fight NATO troops and is trying to push Afghanistan back under oppressive rule. That would be devastating.
Deprived Afghan women, most of the Afghan citizens, from their basic rights, shut down the doors of the schools and clinics and healthcare to majority of the Afghan. So how can Afghan can go back to these kind of days?
Ambassador Jawad says his country needs an international troop surge and says the narcotics problem should also be fought through development.
If we are able to find a market for their legitimate crop, they will switch. Nobody in the world wants to be a criminal. But if they have to feed their family, then they will do whatever it takes.
More and more Afghan farmers are switching from poppy crops to alternative crops. In fact, a September 2008 report from the State Department says poppy cultivation is actually down by 19% from 2007. That is a stunning change, which the State Department says reversed the trend of record poppy growth over the past 2 years and expanded the number of poppy-free provinces from 13 to 18 of Afghanistan's 34 provinces.
Basically, northern Afghanistan and eastern Afghanistan is poppy-free, and we would like to continue this momentum.
The battle to eradicate poppy crops was left up to Afghan troops until now, but in a major new development October 2008, NATO announced its troops will target Afghanistan's opium trade directly for the first time ever.
In the areas where the terrorists are mostly active in the south, particularly in Helmand province, we have more challenges with narcotics.
Afghanistan is a narco state in the south of the country. There are 3 or 4 provinces that are responsible for growing most of the poppy in that country. And it's lawless, there's corruption, there's Taliban involvement.
I spoke to former Bush administration official Thomas Schweik right after the news came out that NATO would help fight the drug trade.
I'm very, very pleased to see now that military authorities are recognizing that the only way they can defeat the Taliban is by helping to defeat the drug trade.
Schweik wrote an article for the New York Times raising the question, is Afghanistan a narco state? He served as U.S. coordinator for counter-narcotics and justice reform in Afghanistan.
My problem is that the area where you're seeing so much poppy production and where the drugs really do dominate the economy is the area where President Karzai has his power base. I don't think he personally is profiting from the drugs trade, but I do think he doesn't want to make any waves, and he has prevented effective counter-narcotics action in that part of the country.
He is wrong to blame this on a particular individual or a particular institution. It is a comprehensive problem that needs a comprehensive approach. And it could not be solved by blaming a person or trying to carry out a personal crusade.
Afghanistan President Hamid Karzai has always denied that he and his family are linked to the drug trade. His website lists an ambitious plan for Afghanistan's recovery and future development, which includes the elimination of the trade in illegal narcotics. President Karzai recently spoke at a United Nations General Assembly in New York at a conference called Culture of Peace.
There is nothing more important than the elimination of the scourge of extremism, xenophobia, and hatred, which can only be possible through dialogue and cooperation.
The fact is, it is a complicated fight. It is not the crusade of one man. There is no silver bullet solution.
A new report from the State Department in September 2008 says the government of Afghanistan is committed to carrying out a more robust counter-narcotics campaign for the coming year, including taking vigorous anti-corruption measures and arresting and prosecuting high-value drug kingpin targets. There are those who wonder why the world should help Afghanistan become a peaceful, successful democratic country.
Well, the obvious reason is, the 9/11 attackers based all of their operations out of Afghanistan. Many of the other terrorist attacks that have occurred since then in Europe and elsewhere were perpetrated by people who were trained in Afghanistan. And as long as that remains a lawless area of the country where extremism in any form can thrive, it's a threat to all Western nations.
Ambassador Jawad says the country is changing dramatically from the days when the Taliban ruled and women were completely absent from the streets and political life.
Today, there are 17 privately owned TV stations. There are women who have TV stations broadcasting for women only. 27% of Afghan parliament, members of the Afghan parliaments are women. 6 million children are going back to school, an important investment for the future of Afghanistan and the region and the world.
Ambassador Jawad and his wife Shamim came to San Francisco from Washington recently to see the extraordinary exhibit of artifacts from Afghanistan at the Asian Art Museum. It was an upbeat moment for a couple living in two worlds as they continue to raise awareness to help their troubled homeland.
Even if some of our friends in the international community feel underwater and will try to give up on Afghanistan, the Afghan people will certainly not give up on their country. They've come a long way, they'll continue their struggle, and we will win for sure.
Cheryl Jennings, ABC 7 News.
We have some breaking news tonight. Sheriff's deputies in Placer County report a skier was killed today in an avalanche at Squaw Valley. The victim is identified as 21-year-old Randall Davis of Tahoe City. Ski patrols found a single ski at the site of the avalanche and used trained dogs and tracking devices to find the body. The area is expert terrain, steep and wooded. Authorities say the victim was an experienced skier. Still ahead here tonight, you've just unwrapped that cool new gadget you wanted for Christmas, but what about the warranty you can buy with it? Next, why it all could come down to the fine print.